Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to talk about a sales idea because when we think about the conversations that we have with our clientele, it's not the products that we sell really, it's the stories that we tell. And today we're going to talk about a very cool concept, one that's near and dear to my heart. We call it how to have a tax diversification conversation. And so all my contact information is at the bottom there. As you can see, my cell phone, you can text, you can call, you can email. I know it's an egregiously long email address, but feel free to email me too. But we're here today to talk about a concept that is relevant, especially today. We'll talk about why that is. But when you think about like the mission statement that I talk about, the reason why I created a company called Valor Financial Specialist. So when you think about the definition of valor, it's great courage in the face of danger. And when we think about the current concerns we have today or the volatility, we see the stock market constantly going down. Uh, we've seen articles that are saying that we're heading towards a recession and the recession could last, the entire year. Real estate market, the interest rates have been going up and up and up. And talked to several realtors as well, and they've said that it hasn't been as easy sledding as it used to be. Crypto, we've gone into that crypto winter once again, like we had in 2008. Amazing what happens when the government is not giving us free money, how stuff like that can dry up. But and then we think about things that will continue to rise and that we should be aware of. You think about like your healthcare or long-term care. We'll talk about that today too, and disability. You think about disability, you're not being able to perform the functions of your job. So, really our mission today is to provide you, Valor, our mission is to provide you with the courage you need to protect your clients in the face of these types of dangers with solutions that are widely utilized, but really not often talked about. And that's why we do things like this training, so we can train you right, so you can help your clients the best way possible. And so, when we talk about this strategy, how to have a tax diversification conversation, really it's at the heart of what people are thinking about nowadays. Not a lot of people wake up at night saying, I really need life insurance. Why didn't I get life insurance yet? They might have during COVID time, but really, when we talk about things that are pressing on people's minds, it's that retirement protection. They're more worried about retirement. Matter of fact, 64% of Americans worry more about retirement than actually even dying, outliving that type of money. And so when we think about that, when we shift our focus to something that is more pressing to what our clients are thinking of, that's where this type of story comes into play. Now, if we look, for example's sake, at this equation, it's a fun equation, right? 2 times 3 times 5 times 7 times 52 times 20. I promise you the math equals out. It's accurate, 218,400. But really what it is it's the meaning behind that information. So when we think about that, we talk about two people, like a 65-year-old couple. They have 3 meals a day, average about $5 a meal, 7 days a week, 52 weeks in a year for 20 years. That's right. This is a food budget for someone's average retirement. Now, when you're talking to clientele and they say $5 per meal is not enough, you already know there's a hook in. Okay. So that's already a sign that they're kind of on the same page with you. I know for me, thank God the camera only shows shoulders up because we all know that I spend more than $5 on a meal. And so let's just say though 220, is an easy number to remember, 220,000 for food during our retirement. That's what this equation is. So then to kind of add on top of that, in regards to the focus on retirement piece, we look at the top over here when we talk about men averaging about 17 years during retirement, and women last about 20 years during your retirement. So I always ask people why, that dynamic is that men only last 17 years and women last 20. So for you women, we want to give you a chance to enjoy your retirement, 3 easy years without hearing this. Or men, we like to, get some rest earlier. So in any event, you have a longevity of about 20 years of retirement. The hard part is, though, is if we look down here on the 401k section, not a lot of people are really planning for retirement. Matter of fact, people in the age of 55 to 64 have less than $30,000 put away for their own retirement needs. Now, we're not aiming for those people with this solution. We want to make sure the people we're aiming for don't have to worry about this type of scenario. But another major concern is during our working years, 60% of retirees have retired too soon due to some type of concern, whether it be unemployment or health related concerns. So let's kind of remember some of these facts. I think it's really important as we continue down this venture. Then we talk about, outliving assets. What are the things that happen in our golden years? Healthcare concerns. We start to get older, things start to deteriorate, break, become more brittle. And so when we think about the actual cost of expenses during our retirement for even healthcare, we think about the statistics. 80% of people are going to have at least one type of chronic illness or condition. 68% are going to have two or more. And so when we think about that, we think about retirement and the average time it takes someone to stay in, say, covered care, like long-term care. Once again, women, 3.7 years, and men is 2.2. A lot of times, even though when you talk to clientele about things like long-term care, yes, we can sell long-term care type solutions. If they can't afford it for both, always go for the female who's typically younger, healthier, and normally takes care of the male when he gets sick and then is left by themselves after to fend for themselves. So once again, that's why women have a longer duration for care as well. So we think about the cost of this stuff, and there's a great website, genworth.com/cost of care. It gives you an average cost of healthcare in your local area, or I took the nation, and you can even inflate it. So if we look at current costs today on an annual basis, nationwide, you look at a private room is $108,000 a year. So let's just say close to 10 grand a month. But if we're talking about 50-year-olds who might need that at the end of their lifetime, 80, you're looking at $263,000 a year. So we're already paying $220,000 for food. Then we also have to have that preparation for things like this that statistically are not in our favor. So how do we do something like that? We have to save for it. But there's really three places where you can put money. There's a tax now bucket, a tax later bucket, and a tax never bucket. So when we think about these scenarios, the tax now is your CDs and money markets. You get interest per year, you get charged tax per year for those type of investments. Mutual funds, great vehicles for investments. If you follow the Dave Ramsey or Susie Ormans of the world, mutual funds are fantastic. If they tell you which ones to pick, if you don't know and you don't do all the research, then typically you go to a financial advisor and pay fees for them to pick for you, and hopefully they're right. So when you think about the tax now, there's a lot of maybes, ifs, and concern even there. And no one wants to pay taxes. That's why a majority, matter of fact, about 95% of people put their money into a tax later vehicle. So when we look at tax later vehicles, you have your 401ks, your 403bs, your traditional IRAs. Now, the beauty of those, which everyone loves, is the ability to have tax deductible contributions. What does that mean? It means that I'm going to take out of my paycheck that my employer gives me and put pre-tax into a retirement vehicle to grow interest on a tax deferred basis. That's that right there. I will not get taxed on it today. And matter of fact, whatever my salary is will be reduced because I'm putting money away pre-tax. So I'm not going to have a higher tax bracket during my working years today. So that's how the tax deductible, tax deferred type of vehicles in your tax later vehicle grow. Now, if we think about where we are today, we are at a historically low top marginal tax bracket, around 39% for top marginal tax bracket. If we look back at the 30s, 40s, 50s time frame, top marginal tax brackets were north of 70, 80, even 90% at one point. So the whole idea of a 401k to reduce your overall tax outlay made a lot of sense because we didn't want to get taxed as much. And then as we get older and all we have left is this 401k, then we have the ability to take out money at a lower tax bracket. The downside is that if we're at a historic low today, and the government is doling out trillions of dollars for COVID relief, which was warranted, much needed for the economy. They're also doling out money for Medicare, Medicaid, all those social, pieces that are needed for our country and are part of the budget. There's only one way the government is going to recoup that, and that's by what? Taxes. So taxes, we're going to assume, are going to go up. And if we're putting money in to get a tax deduction today at a historic low, to take out money later at a potentially increased amount, the whole idea of tax deductible, tax deferred has been reversed. And we're not getting the most advantageous opportunity. Am I saying take all your money out of 401ks? Absolutely not. Companies are giving matches, and that's free money. You want to make sure you take advantage of that, and it never hurts to have a balanced approach. So that's why we talk about the tax never bucket. The tax never bucket is your Roth IRAs or cash value life insurance. Now, the Roth IRAs are great. What you do, you put your money in. You can put in, if you're 50 or below or under 50, you can put in 2023, total of $6,500 a year. Okay. That is until you hit a limit. For example's sake, if you by yourself or you and your spouse make a certain amount, you can no longer qualify to put money into a Roth IRA, and that essentially becomes a dead asset. On top of that, you have the situation where Roth, you can invest in anything, mutual funds, ETFs, whatever. But let's say, for example's sake, I invest $6,500 into a Roth today, and I pass away tomorrow. My wife will get $6,500, give or take whatever the market does. So if we think about cash value life insurance, it can be treated, I'm not saying it is, but treated like a Roth on steroids. Now, why do I say that? You have the ability to put in $6,500 per year into a cash value life insurance policy. You have the ability to put in 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. I've done cases where it's $100,000 a year for 10 years for an income purpose. And when you do that, when you focus on the accumulation opportunity, it's treated similar to a Roth with that tax never opportunity. The perks, though, of the life insurance is that if I put in $6,500 today and I passed away tomorrow, my wife gets a tax-free death benefit that she can use for her retirement so she can enjoy the retirement she deserves rather than the one I just gave her by exiting the workforce too early. It grows tax deferred, just like the Roth, just like the 401k. You can actually access, though, the cash value life insurance piece before age 59 and a half and not get a 10% penalty. So if you have someone who's just crushing it and they want to retire at 50, this could be the bridge that they have to use or can use until they get to 59 and a half or 60 when they can pull out qualified monies. There's no required minimum distributions on the back end. So if you don't need the money, you can let it grow. And then ultimately it'll pass to the next generation tax-free as well. So there's a lot of great value pieces here that a lot of people just don't think about. And so how do we have this type of conversation? So if you're talking to a client about this, there's a very simple strategy. We call it the 5-10-20 story, or contribution, accumulation, distribution. So if you have a pen handy, feel free to play along. But what we would do is we would write down a piece of paper, 5-10-20. And if I were to say to you today, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this is a typical retirement strategy to where you invest or you contribute $5 to a plan. It accumulates to $10 over time. And then during your retirement years, you take distributions out and it equals out a total of $20. So your contribution phase is 5, your accumulation phase is 10, and your distribution phase is 20. And so I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is you have to pay taxes on one of these three. But here's the good news. You actually get to choose. So if you are talking to a client, they have a piece of paper in front of them with a 5-10-20, slide over to them the paper and say, pick which one you want to pay taxes on. Most people will pick the $5 for obvious reasons. People don't want to pay taxes. But then the simple question is that where are your assets currently invested? Most people will say, well, I have a 401k, I've got an IRA. You say, okay, well, let's think about that. Out of these numbers, which one's going to get taxed? All of a sudden, that aha moment hits where it's not the 5 anymore, it's the 20. So a simple question would be, wouldn't it make sense to diversify a portion of your portfolio? If I could show you a way to have a retirement strategy that provides you with tax treatment that you wanted, and you could put in as much as you want, how much would you put into a plan like that every year? Now, I'll ask you guys today, where in here do you see it say, do you want to buy a life insurance policy? It's not there. The whole idea from this strategy is it is a retirement strategy. We'll find them the vehicle that gets them the tax treatment that they want, and they can put in as much as they want, monthly, yearly, whatever you think is the best way to position it. But oh, by the way, some additional benefits of this type of plan, self-completing. So if you don't make it to that retirement you think you're going to make it to, you can get a tax-free death benefit to your beneficiary. There's no set limit on contributions. So if you want to put in 10, 15, 20,000 a year, you can do that. There's pre-age 59 and a half access, as I already mentioned, with no income tax or penalty tax. This is a big one, especially if you talk to a lot of business owners. You can catch up on missed contributions. So we had a lot of people who were hit pretty hard during the COVID years, and it took them time to recoup. Well, let's say they started a plan in 2018. They paid their premium in 2018, they paid it in 2019, and then they had a really hard time in 2020. But then that business came back in 21. They could skip that 2020 premium and then double up the next year. You can't do that with 401ks and IRAs. That's the beauty of this. You can catch up on missed contributions due to the flexibility of the design. You don't need to worry about RMDs, or required minimum distributions, or for the beneficiaries. And there's upside market performance without downside market risk. So once again, it balances the portfolio. If you have one side going up and down due to the stock market, this side is your steady Eddie. So if we take a look at an idea here, I'm going to use a case study. Good old Ray Lewis, 40 years old, preferred non-tobacco, motivational speaker, making about 400,000 a year. Targeted to retire at 65, so he has a savings of 40,000 a year. They say for you to have a fighting chance of retirement, you need to put away at least 10% of your W-2 income. So he's going to put 20,000 of that into his 401k, almost maxing it out. And then he has another 20,000 that we're going to reposition. And so we're going to put that into a life insurance policy where the focus is not on a high death benefit, but on a low death benefit. He's got a preferred non-tobacco risk class due to his health, and the policy is going to grow over time with the funding of the premiums. The illustration rates vary, so as us as professionals look at a bunch of different carriers, all of them have different interest rates, so they do vary. We're going to pay to 65 and then take out income for 25 years starting at 66. So I used 4 carriers. I'm going to keep it anonymous, just because we love all our carriers. But in this scenario, we've paid 20,000 for 25 years. Now you'd think if someone was putting in $20,000, the death benefit would be a lot higher. But it's a really funky number because the carriers are trying to find the lowest death benefit possible to maximize the accumulation. Now you'll see carriers each have different types of rates of return. Some are higher than others. And I don't really like higher rate of returns, but this is usually what the carriers do to sweeten the deal. So for example's sake here, we've invested a total of about $500,000, and we're going to pull out income anywhere from 146,000 down to about 104,000 for 25 years, or a max of 3.6 million all the way down to 2.6 million. And when we look at this target premiums, we're looking at the required or recommended amount that the carrier wants you to put in for this death benefit to keep it enforced. And so if you think about it, we're really juicing up or overfunding these policies to help boost up the cash accumulation opportunity. But to make it fair, again, you range from 6.24 to 7.04. I also wanted to do one at 6%. So the rate of return is 6%, all things equal. And the story is still great. You're getting anywhere from 3 million to 2.5 million for the same investment. It's less, yes, but in this scenario, all things considered equal, 6%. I saw a drop of about 18 to 20% for most of these carriers. This carrier was only a 5% drop given their lower illustrated rate. So, it just depends on who you want to work with, and that's the beauty of the design is we have plenty of carriers to work with to figure out what's best for your client. But if we take the top dog, the big chief, the winner, 500K investment, it accumulates over time to 1.3 million. And then over time, they're going to take out that income to 146,000, and you're going to see a total of $3.6 million withdrawn over a 25-year period, tax-free. So we asked the question, is Ray happier that he paid taxes on the 500,000 or the 3.6 million? I think it's pretty easy to decide. When we think about it, maximum funded life insurance really is the way that you can do something like this. And so for us as producers, typical clients that this would be a great story for. Doctors, dentists, attorneys are always usually at the top of everybody's lists because they work very hard. It's a tough profession and they get paid well for it. CPAs, great lead source because they probably know doctors, dentists, and attorneys, chiropractors, veterinarians, funeral home directors, successful business owners like everybody watching this. So if you haven't thought about doing this for yourself and you're within the age range of like 20 to 55, this is a great story. High income executives and then at-home spouses. So, the running joke for a while when I worked for a carrier, I had the 401k, so I had the tax later money. And my wife, when I would tell her how much we had, she'd say how much I had. So I said, we're a team, this and that. But in essence, it turned out that we shifted the dynamic. We got her this type of policy. Some call it a LIRP, life insurance retirement plan. So I have the tax later, she has the tax never to balance out our portfolio. And so it's a great story, great concept, and why do it with us? Why Valor Financial? Really it is your vision and our expertise. So I've been doing this for 16 years. There's nothing I haven't really seen before. It's a great industry. There's a lot of change, but these are some of the things that we offer here at Valor Financial. Small business services. You think of the tax-free retirement strategies that we just talked about. We have the ability to offer 401k plans, SEPs, IRAs for small business owners, guaranteed income solutions like annuities. This is a great conversation. Premium finance for those who can afford it, really, and then estate planning, whether just basic planning. We have wills and trusts, all the way up to doing legacy type plans with irrevocable trusts. So a lot of that we can do here. Just some success stories that we had. On the financial side, we had an agent who, before he came over to, Valor, he worked with a different IMO and had two sets of clients, a wife a wife and her husband, 40 years old apiece, and the parents of the son, 68 years old. They all applied with one carrier for 3 million for the 68-year-olds and 6 million for the husband and the wife. All got declined due to lack of financials. When they came over to Valor, we opened that back up. We found a carrier that was more favorable for the financial side, and we were able to secure all 18 million of it. And the agent walked away with about 350,000 in target premium. So from zero to that is a pretty good day. On the diabetes side, there's a lot of that seems to go around nowadays. We had a client who had a 56-year-old, or we had a 56-year-old client, 8.0 A1C, sleep apnea, cardiac concerns, able to find a carrier that was a little bit more liberal with a lot of those, and got the standard non-tobacco for 3 million in coverage. 50-year-old, 7.1 A1C, above. If you have diabetes, you want to be 6.2 to 6.4. They're at 7.1, and as we all know, if you have a parent who passes away before 60 due to genetics, typically carriers give standard at best. And we were able to secure $10 million that preferred non-tobacco. And lastly, speed to issue. This happened just recently. We were able to secure a 50-year-old, $3 million in term coverage. The policy was approved the next day. So no lapse, no nothing, very quick, swift, if you will. So these are the kind of stories that continue to grow. The power of having multiple carriers. We don't want you to lose a sale. That's the most important part. And then on the flip side, you're going to have expert training to help you become successful. So sales ideas like these, agent-specific training, how to overcome objections, product, process, and more. All trainings will be on these Thursdays. Sign up is free. There's no cost to this. It's just the partnership. So I want to work with you guys, and I hope you value this opportunity. Compensation, I would say we have a strong compensation package. And really the cool thing is that we have the ability to help you grow. So if you're looking for a marketing team, if you will, you want to grow a foundation and build and train your own team, we have the ability to do that too with healthy compensation for everybody to win. But if you just want to write, heck, we got that too. So that's the beauty of this design is you can have it your way. And really, my goal is to help you guys guide to where you need to go to get the right solutions. So, once again, today we talked about how to have a tax diversification conversation. Most importantly, it's about action, the action step. So if you have clients that came to mind as we talked about this, again, 20s to about 55-ish, then feel free to give me a call. Feel free to text me. Feel free to email me, and let's have a conversation so we can see what we can do to help our customers and help our society. So with that, I want to say thank you for the time, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day.